Welcome back to the Dark Reading Newsdesk at RSA 2023. Terry Sweeney with Dark Reading here, and joining us now is Corey Bodzin, Senior Vice President of Product for Automox. Corey, welcome back to the Dark Reading Newsdesk.
Thanks for having me, Terry. This is going to be fun.
We are talking about getting smarter where endpoint management is concerned. In Automox's State of IT Operations report from last year, 60% of your sample used 10 or more tools for endpoint management, which sounds like a nightmare. That number dropped to 20% in the 2023 report. I'm wondering what you make of that and what the implications are for security professionals and SOC management alike.
That's a great question. And there's a lot going on there, right? Nobody wants to have 15, 20, 30 different things if they don't have to. It's nice to have the ability when you want to get into some, but what we find is that most people say, I want to consolidate. I really am looking for that mythical single pane of glass to help me see what's going on.
You don't hear a lot of customers saying, yes, I need more management tools.
I have not usually heard many customers saying, I want to spend more and have more tools and more things I need to know how to use. So yeah, we see a lot of consolidation. It's really important for customers to be able to say, I go one place and I see all my systems, doesn't matter what they are, I see all the information I need, I can take the actions I need to take.
Good stuff. Can you share any other interesting or surprising insights from about endpoint management that emerged in the data?
Yeah, maybe it's surprising, maybe it isn't. I know when we surveyed the respondents, what we found was about a quarter of them said, yeah, we're fully automated on patching. 3/4 said, we have some partial automation. That was kind of surprising for me. My experience is that people struggle to get that kind of automation going, and so that seemed high. But again, I think in the context of what you asked before, a lot of people say, well, it's fully automated to a degree, but then I go over to another system to maybe try to tackle it. And so I think there's a hunger there for a little bit better.
It does sound high, and I'm wondering if maybe, I don't want to accuse people of misrepresenting, but is there maybe a margin of error there?
Yeah, there's maybe a margin of error, or maybe there's a margin of error in expectations, right? I think as an industry, we've maybe gotten really accustomed to, it does all right, and I can supplement it with more. But again, as we see people saying, how can I really consolidate? How can I get down to one? They should be raising their bar a little bit about, is this really fully automated, or is this, this is fully automated for this much, but I'm looking to do this much?
Reporting tools often get short shrift in the security realm. It's not as sexy as automation, for sure. Talk a bit, if you would, about why reporting is such a critical function and what some of the essential features are of a good reporting tool.
Yeah, reporting is incredibly important, and you're right, it does often get the short shift. What I believe everybody wants to not only do the work, but actually be able to show, look what I've done, look at how I've made things better. And in fact, that's why all us vendors are here doing that as well. Reporting is the mechanism by which you let people know, here's where we were, here's where we've gotten to, here's where we're headed. And so there's a lot of dissatisfaction with showing exactly the data you want. There's a lot of dissatisfaction with, you're only showing me the state as opposed to that whole journey I've been on. And I think that's an area where I know, at least for us, we're working really hard to make it a much more comprehensive experience. And I think you'll hear that across the industry.
There is a phenomenon in both IT and security realms where particularly people who are involved in the management have to swivel chairs around to get the view that they need into an endpoint or a system, or even reassigning a ticket, for example. This process extends resolution times. What's the fix here?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I did the work, but I remember coming to a point where I wasn't sure if my desk could handle yet another monitor for all the swiveling I was doing. That's hard, right? You do want what we talked about before, kind of that single pane of glass, that one place that you can go to get all your information. I think there's also a really important distinction there. It's okay to have a lot of tools and swivel that chair around when you're interested, when it's something you have time for. It's really a problem when you have to be spinning in circles on that chair just to get your job done. And so that's where I think as an industry, we want to give people a lot of options and choices, and there's nothing wrong with that, but also being able to do the whole job so you don't have to do as much swiveling. Maybe that's really where we need to head, is don't just tell me what's wrong, but tell me what's wrong, help me fix it, help me show that I've made things better.
Well, and of course you don't want to be swiveling around in the middle of a really bad incident, much less multiple people having to do the same kind of drill.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's cliche, but every second counts in incidents like that, and that time you're spending logging in, going to a different tool, it's time you're not spending resolving the problem. So you're absolutely right, especially for our SOC friends. There is power in being able to see everything in one place.
Sure, sure. It's a fact of life that most SOCs still haven't adopted automation to maybe the full extent that they could. What do you think is holding them back there?
So I've been on both sides of this throughout my career of assessing and then attempting to fix, and I've always seen a real hesitancy to actually make the changes, just because these systems are complex and some things sometimes go wrong and there's a lot of unknowns. So, when I was on the vulnerability management side, for example, we spent a lot of time making sure scanners didn't knock things over because you didn't want to have that happen. Now that I'm more on the remediation side, we spend a lot of time making sure we can really show here the changes we're going to make, because you don't want to accidentally make a change that is maybe the right intention but the wrong person at the wrong time.
Right. Changing gears, AI and automation often get used interchangeably, certainly in conversations at RSA and elsewhere. How do you see this impacting adoption of automation by both IT and security teams? And does that mean different things to the different teams?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's always the hype cycle. And I've lived through this with things like AI and machine learning. They're powerful tools. Machine learning in particular, there's a lot of good stuff that it can do. There's a lot of insight in the data that it can pull out. The same is going to be true with AI. There are a lot of ways that it can accelerate your abilities to either do development with something like Copilot or create copy and documentation for your end users. But we're very early on. And so right now, I think our expectations of, hey, I pop it in the magic box and out comes something, we'll have a little bit of work to do before we get to a point where people really understand this is yet another capability that helps me as the practitioner be better, but most of the time it doesn't replace me as the practitioner.
Sure. Corey, some great insights on getting smarter about endpoint management and automation. Thanks for joining us on the Dark Reading Newsdesk.
Thanks, it was a pleasure. I really enjoyed our chat.
We've been talking with Corey Bodzin of Automox. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading Newsdesk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll see you next time.